Please stand for the flag salute. Be led by Trustee Felice.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the village board meeting. Actually, the village budget meeting for fiscal year 2015-2016. Just a reminder, if there's an emergency, you exit out the rear of the building. You go to your vehicle. Please do not leave until sub-directed by emergency service personnel. The wait, and it was a non-smoking building, so if you must do it outside. The structure of the meeting will be is Treasurer Krawczyk, Deputy Treasurer Monti. They will handle a budget description at the beginning. We're going to go through the entire budget. We'll hold all questions till the end. And at that point in time, it will be for the public portion.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, the budget for 2015-2016, total budget appropriations is $12,415,341. We did take some surplus to reduce our tax burden, our tax relief of $675,000, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where that's coming from and what that means. So subtotal down to $11,740,000. 4.6 million of that is covered by our revenues, and $7,122,000 would be covered by our tax levy. Our tax levy will be $13.63, $13.63, which is a little bit below where we were last year. We were at 2.8 increase. This is a 2.7 increase over last year. What it means that the average homeowner will pay $47 more a year in taxes, which comes down to $3.92 a month. I do have some highlights I want to go over with everybody, but before I do that, let me talk a little bit about our surplus and about what that 675 means. Our surplus last year, we ended the year with a $3.2 million surplus. And that was after we took surplus for tax relief of $600,000. This year, we would be having approximately a $3.9 million surplus. We're taking $675 out. We are still going to be at a $3.2 million surplus, which is about 26% of our budget, which is very good. Our bonding agencies would like to see anywhere from 15 to 25%. We're at 25.7. We have a AA rating on our bonds, second from the highest. 11 years ago, we had just one above junk bonds. So we've come a long way because of that surplus. 11 years ago, we had a $200,000 surplus. Now we have a $3,200,000. So if anyone thinks that there's a deficit, there isn't. What happened this year is we picked up $700,000 in our surplus. $490,000 came from FEMA money, which we had laid out in prior years. And the other $200,000, $300,000 came from either our revenues were more than we anticipated or our appropriations were less than anticipated. Okay, so there is no deficit. Okay, I'm going to go through some of the reasons why our budget has increased. I'm just going to go through them, and after I'm done, if there's any questions, we'll talk about it. A workman's comp went up $133,000 this year, 27%, and that's because of our experience. We have a lot of guys that are hurt. We were in the safety group. We had an audit done. They came and audited us, and we're not in the safety group anymore because of the injuries that we have in our highway department and the sanitation business. That's up $103,000. Health insurance is up a slight 1%. Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me. Sorry, Mayor.
Sorry, Ann. Very well worked. Public safety salaries are up $32,000 due to additional part-time hours for meter enforcement. Court increase, $28,000 in salaries due to a couple of reasons. Title change for our senior justice court, an increase for our justice, and I think increased part-time workers all together. I think it's like 5 people that are involved in the increases. Our assessor, there's an increase of $20,000 due to a title change for our assessment clerk to go to a senior clerk, plus there's an additional part-time employee. Our building department increase is $34,000 due to increased hours of part-time inspectors and increased hourly rates as they have received the New York State Code certification, which we're very happy that they have. Senior street lighting has increased by $16,000. We've given our electrician more hours. There's a lot of lighting that has to be taken care of. That's what that's for. Sanitation increased $54,000 due to an additional sanitation laborer. Our ambulance budget increased $23,000. And just so you know, the total budget for the ambulance is $645,000. We have an increase in trustee salaries, $18,000. Our trustees are going from $12,000 to $15,000. There has not been an increase for those trustees in the last 9 years, so it's been a long time. The mayor's salary has gone up. It's going up $12,000 from $36,000 to $48,000. You know, if you work 60 hours, you have to get paid for it. And I don't think there's another mayor in New York State or any other state that works as hard as ours. So I have no problem with that. Basically, all I have, I'll open up to questions.
To the board. First of all, comments by the board about the budget, any additions, any other issues they have.
Yeah, well, first I applaud Ron and Annie both for the hard work and very effective budget. I think a 2.7% increase is very fair and reasonable. I know other villages are increasing greater than that. And Annie holds on to $1 until the eagle grins. It's hard to get money out of it. One of the greatest things about the budget, one of the things that we've been looking for the last few years, and Ron and Andy managed to find the funds for that. We'll now have Sunday morning Main Street garbage pickup. From June 1st to November 1st, with the farmers market coming, toast, breakfast should be opening, I would imagine, by springtime. There's obviously a great increase in foot traffic on Main Street, which obviously, you know, relates to the garbage. And so we've had several complaints, especially last night's meeting, actually, prime example. Yeah, so I didn't, you know, I think this is very fair, and I think that getting that Sunday morning pickup, obviously something that the man I've talked about for the last 3 years, now it's here, so.
All right, send the girls.
Breaking up, we should just take a break.
Any other comments?
We have correspondence from a resident in the village, David Bowman, on 38 Grenville Avenue. He's unable to attend the public hearing on the village board budget because of the early time of his meeting, the early time of the meeting this evening. Please recognize my disapproval of any village employee pay raises and my objection to piercing the tax cap. That's it, for the record.
Good job, Ron. Thank you. Mayor Pontieri, thank you very much for the budget. Why would somebody sort of misinterpret this to be a deficit budget?
Because initially, they'd always been put on the front sheet, it says surplus/deficit,
Yeah.
and you make the assumption.
Because it's in brackets, it's a deficit.
Oh, okay. And
In a deficit budget, you actually borrow money.
Yeah, and what would happen is, if it was really a deficit, the $3.2 million we had in surplus would be $3 million this year. So the 200,000 would be money that we need to cover, our revenues, which are not keeping up with our population.
And there were years back, when I first went through, where we consistently ran a deficit. And Andy and I kind of remember going through that. And we've been very fortunate. And I think that the surplus is driven by what happens in the Treasurer's office and how they manage the dollars we have. You don't get to a surplus of 3.2, 3.6, 3.9 million by spending frivolously. One of the things that happens is you have a choice when you get money like the FEMA money back in. You can either spend it that year or hold on to it to see where you need it going into the next year to be able to provide services. And actually, if you took the 675 and you took that, if we stayed under the cap, which was, I think for us was about 1.6, and would you say that was probably about 130,000?
About 120 million.
120.
We're about 70,000 over the cap.
If you took those two numbers together, we would have earned about almost $800,000. Recreation is how much, Bill? About $750,000?
680.
Yeah. So we could have gotten rid of recreation. Well, I guess my point is that the budgeting we do is based upon the needs we have. And it's always been done that way. We can play the tax cap, we can work, but at $125,000, you couldn't pay for South Ocean Avenue. You couldn't pay for the bond. Your bond could probably be about $1 million to do what you need to do in paving, but you're going to get 15 years out of it. So my point is that when I hear that we ran a deficit, we've never run a deficit since this administration has been in office.
We had
never taken a deficit.
11 years ago, we had a $200,000 surplus. Now it's 3.5.
Just a quick,
Just remember, and if we didn't have the certiorari's or the tax grievances that we had this year, which was how much, 470 or something?
Almost $500,000 in returns this year.
We returned $500,000. If we didn't have that, we didn't sit down at 4.3, we would have been 3.7. But that's why you have it. That's why you have the surplus. You have the surplus to take care of those things. Why we didn't borrow money for Hurricane Sandy? Why we didn't borrow money for Hurricane Irene? Why we didn't have to borrow money for the snowstorms? Last year's budget and this year's budget for snow are the same. We spent about $180,000 13-14. We spent $180,000 14-15. The difference is we were able to work out an agreement with the county where, as you remember, we plow the parking lot, we mow the lawns for the courthouse, we take care of all their property maintenance. For that, we get salt.
That agreement was huge, the sulfur service, that was huge.
It's huge, because it was the salt this year, based upon the tonnage, probably would have been over $100,000. But we made a deal that allowed us basically to put $100,000 into surplus that we would have normally had to pull back. So, I don't sit here and defend the budget in the sense of defending what we do or the raises that we may get. I do it just to say, for clarity, as to how we operate and what we do when we operate. We'll be paving Ocean Avenue, Pearl, as you heard the other night, Boyle. We're going to pave about $1.2 million, $1.3 million worth of roads, I think is what it was. $1.2 million worth of roads. And it doesn't happen. If you're running a deficit and your bond rating is, we get money now, what, money, 2.6, 2.7, something like that? Under 3. If we had the bond rating we had, we came to office to be about 5, almost 6. So, we're fortunate about where we're at. The New York State has a test they give villages and municipalities. It's called a stress test. What they do is they take, whether it be surplus, whether it be operating accounts, they take a look at your financial position. And the lower your number, the less stress they leave you under. So, I think from 0 to 45 is no stress, from 45 to 70 is moderate, over 70, severe stress, over 90, you're going out of business. Well, we're at 11.7. And we manage our money so it does the best it can do for the community. Every municipality that had over the 45, almost every municipality, I can't say every municipality, every village that I looked at that was over 45, and over 65 in particular, played 2% tax cap, had almost no money in reserves, and we're just in terrible financial condition. I understand what the gentleman says, don't pay us the tax cap. It's wonderful to say, but I figure $40 a year on a monthly basis is a heart healthy increase. Don't go to McDonald's once a month. That $4 is better put to pay the blacktop than into McDonald's. If you're a cigarette smoker, don't put the $4 towards a pack of cigarettes, whatever it may be. So, just, yeah. So that's just some comments. Trustee Devlin?
No, I sat with Ron last week and went over everything to my satisfaction, and I think, you've done an excellent job.
Thank you, ma'am.
If anything, if you want to speak to maybe future revenue or future savings that we might have coming up when some bonds are paid off.
Well, I know, we want to talk about the $50,000 bond that's coming up.
In 17, in 2002, we took out a bond for $4.23 million, something like that, for the theater. That bond will be paid off in 17. So at that point in time, there will be a $350,000 savings. Because that bond is at $350,000 a year. So
That's a significant savings.
it's a significant savings. When you consider we put $600,000 in, it's three of that $600,000 you have to worry about. You know, the other piece is that when you figure that $675,000, you've heard me say this before, is that in 2004 we paid $54,000 in retirement. This year, but we've had a reduction this year because we had a payment that we had a payment that we were making to the retirement system. We're down to $750,000. So in 10 years, we've got up to $700,000, almost the amount of money that we have to take out of surplus.
But plus we have condos coming on.
Yeah, we have revenue that's going to come in from a lot of the housing. I mean, that's going to be gradual. So there's a lot of stabilizing factors in the future. And I think that's what you indicated to me. So.
There's an IDA pilot for the Four Corners. In 5 years, we get full on all of the retail. In 10 years, it'll build up, or 15 years, it builds up. So over the years, over the next several years, we'll be getting more revenue on that. There are no pilots on any of the other developments here in the village, except Art Space. The new assisted living that's coming in, we made two agreements. We made an agreement with them that they will get a tax abatement, but we have a contractual agreement to receive all taxes due. So it bypasses that. We also have an agreement that we'll get the full mortgage tax on the building. So, yeah.
What percentage do we typically get on mortgage tax?
You know, we used to get $400,000 to $500,000 a year.
Now we get about $115,000 a year.
Because nobody's refinancing where they were.
Well, you know what's happening too is that, and it's one of the complaints I have with the IDAs, is one of the first things they give away is mortgage tax. And notice tax is revenue to municipalities, revenue to the county, it's revenue to the village, it's revenue to the town. It's a revenue source other than the tax base. You know, in a lot of ways, you know, we have other revenue that we get, there's 4.6, which is about, you know, 30% of our total budget. But on the 7.1, the predominance of our funding comes out of property tax. With the county, the predominance of their funding comes out of sales tax and other revenue. The town of Brookhaven, the predominance of their revenue comes out of the landfill. We don't have that opportunity. So when you begin to lose money on mortgage tax, when you're retiring, you know, the mandates that our illustrious government keeps saying that it's taken care of, it hasn't. The EPA issue cost us $100,000 last year. It's a mandate. You have to do what they have to do. But Trustee Hilton, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Well, no, I look around this room and look at every trustee and each the jobs that we all have, and I'm very proud of the work we do, knowing how much time it takes us away from our jobs and family and events that we have to cover instead of going to. And Mr. Mayor, yourself, I know how hard you work, and I can only imagine the value of that. So I'm very proud of everybody. Annie, Ron, thank you.
You know, this is a job. This isn't volunteer work. You don't want to volunteer to do this job. It's work. And it's 2.5 hours today talking about an $18 million grant we're getting for sewers. It was a 2-hour meeting last week with Quinn Rothschild on the $5 million grant on parks. These are the things that you do to get stuff done. Love that. Comments by the public? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll be real brief, but I want to compliment the mayor and trustees, the treasurer, and Andy for a little bit of change in strategy that we've had over the last couple of years. We've really been shifting tax burdens from the residents to the people who use something. And the best example is Jack's parking. I mean, we bought a property with the parking money. You know, where you park in the village, you pay to park. The theater, starting June 1st, is going to give us $1 a head for everybody who shows up at the theater. And that money will go into a capital budget. So the next time there's a new roof on the theater, which hopefully will be 50 years from now and I won't be here, it'll be paid for out of that fund. Billy just negotiated, excuse me, Trustee Hilton, just negotiated $2 a head for the Shorefront Park big party that we have every year. And by the way, we used to give them a bill and collect, you know, for coal and garbage collection. Some years ago you got $1, now we got $2. So we're shifting, you know, years ago there'd be an event at Shorefront Park and we pay for the coal, you know, not the beneficiary of the event. And we got one more target on this list that I hope that we get to this year, which is the ambulance company. That's $645,000. I keep bringing this up. And by the way, we've gotten to most of the things on this list. But you know, when you get a ride to Brookhaven Hospital from an ambulance, and you have heart health insurance, you ought to pay the bill. We residents of Patchogue should not pay that bill. So hopefully this year we'll fix that. It's challenging, by the way. It's a lot of state stuff.
We're working very aggressively on that. Attorney Egan's
We'll get it.
doing very well. We'll get that. I mean, it's going to cost us.
It's $320,000 that we will be laying out of our pockets.
Well, look at it this way. If you get it done in the next 2 years, That means $670,000.
That's the surplus.
Is the surplus.
There you go.
I mean, the future is not right here, right now. You know, with all these buildings coming online, we gotta,
Yeah, did well.
Comments by the public? Okay. Ms. Miller?
Ladies first.
I'm a little bit confused. I'm not an accountant. Should have brought my brother. You guys will have to explain. Did we have a deficit last year?
No.
We had no deficit last year.
Nope.
You said very clearly about 2 weeks or so, or 2 meetings after the budget was passed, Trustee Ferb, you said, we have a deficit. You know, we have a $600,000 deficit, and you made a sort of promise that you were going to, you had some ideas to reduce that deficit. So, did we or did we not have a deficit last year?
you have a vocabulary error by Trustee Ferb. Because it's not a deficit. We have, the village has carried a surplus budget for years. It grew from a couple $100,000 to $3.2 million.
Well, the 3.9.
And Josephine, that comes from a lot of puts and takes. Like, we laid out the money for FEMA, $490,000, whatever it was to do. And then what did it take, 2 years, 3 years to get the money? All right. So that we spent that money out of our current accounts and put it back in when it came. So that it's not a slush fund, and it's not really even a rainy day fund, but it's a
cash flow fund.
It's a cash flow fund. And you know, when your expenses exceed your revenues, and you have to borrow money, that's the deficit. So I misspoke.
I know what the deficit is. I want to ask.
Yeah.
You said last night, you reminded us that this is a blue-collar community.
Absolutely.
So I would like to remind the board that this is a blue-collar community, and every single penny in every single household counts. Thank you.
Mr. Bogack.
John Bogack, 8 Knoxon Street. So this is a fascinating discussion. It's too bad that more people aren't here to be part of this, because I think that's missing in the village. Bothering the people so they can understand what the hell is going on sometimes. So I put it bluntly. So, in response to your question, I certainly might have used the word deficit, maybe deficit spending, and the reason for that is those brackets, and it says deficit.
All it means is we're taking the 675 from the 1214 to get to the 11740. It's not a deficit.
Okay, so I think I get the point from Trustee Ferb. If it was borrowing money, like a loan, that's
Like the
that's
federal
a deficit.
government does, Jack.
If I came to you today and I said, okay, our surplus at the end of last year, after we took tax relief of 600,000, was 3.2 million. If I came to you today and said, okay, after we take the 675 out of surplus, the surplus is going to be down at 3 million. Now we got a $200,000 deficit.
Where the 3.2 million is
That's our
is
surplus.
it right? Is it 100% sort?
That's our surplus.
Oh, okay.
Okay? If we had a $3 million surplus at the end of this year, now you're talking a deficit of 200,000.
All right. Let me ask you this: when you're borrowing from your surplus to pay for extra spending, that's not considered a deficit. But what is it then?
Well,
It's taking
The
money out of a
reason-
savings account.
the reason you have the surplus is because one of two things happened. Your revenues are more than you anticipated,
Okay.
or your appropriations were less than you anticipated. In our case this year, we took $490,000, we got it from FEMA, okay, which we had laid out before.
Right.
So that now, the $3.2 million surplus, add 500,000. Now you're at 370. Plus, our appropriations or our appropriations were less, or revenues were more, to the tune of another 200,000. Okay, so now we're at 3.9. So after the 675, we're still at 3.2.
The way I understand it after we talk is the surplus is just one component of the budget.
Yes.
So just like we transfer funds from here to there when necessary, it's not existing as a separate entity. Is that
Well, your operations are such, when you have excess from your operations, you end up with a surplus.
so
And that's
it's a
exactly what
line.
we have.
It's
And we've been building it up for the last over a year.
So is this a structural issue? Because how do we be doing this, whatever words you want to use, for the last couple of years, we've got to put more money and we've got to take from surplus to bring it back to zero or whatever it is. Is that a structural issue of some sort in terms of the village's finances? That keep running into this every year?
No, I think it's just a good.
Well, the ratings agencies want you to have a
They
surplus.
want you to have a surplus.
You don't have a surplus, you get rated D.
Well, you
And
get
then you can't borrow money.
junk bond.
The surplus was started actually probably in 2004-05. Before Mayor Ed Ine had got a deal for the tower over on DPW, the cell tower. And at that time, we were getting $50,000 a year on a 30-year deal, so it would be $1.5 million. We paid it down for 5 years. So we paid $250,000. The owner of the tower came and said he'd like to buy out the lease. So we bought out the lease at 8-1. We got $750,000 out of it. So I figured at that point when we had talked, you had a choice to wait 30 years to get to $1.5 million, or between the 250 and the 750, you have $1 million today. So that was the first influx of money that we put in to that. That was money that, and that was the base to begin to build our surplus. Then over the years, whether it was because of a storm, more so because of good fiscal management, the sale of certain things, and we don't take one shots. We're not looking to sell something this year so we can balance the budget. The county does it all the time, the town does it, and that's another source of their revenue, is the amount of property they have, and what they can sell and what they can't sell. So, it's about fiscal management. It's about, if you run a business, you can almost call it your profit at the end of the year. It makes no sense.
I don't think we've ever used surplus to reduce taxes. We didn't do that until we had 25% of our surplus to our budget. In other words, the bonding agencies want to see between 15 and 25% of surplus over your budget. Our budget's $12.4 million. We're at $3.2 million. We're about 25.7% surplus to our budget. We didn't start using that money until we were at 25%, and we never got it below that 25. I mean, if it goes
above that from additional revenue.
goes above it from either additional revenues or less of expenses. But if we drop to 20, let's next year we have a bad year. I'm not saying we will. Who knows? If we ever drop to 20, that's not so bad. Okay? Below that, I'd be concerned. But at this point, the way things are going, I think the 25 is a good place to be. And we'll take it as it comes, but we're in good financial shape. Our bond rating is excellent. I mean, we're one below the best, and you don't want to be the best because there's only one place to go, and that's down. So I think we're in great shape.
But I think also when you take a look at Village Hall in general, the way the staff works, what Village Clerk Seal does with our staff, in terms of making sure we get the most out of what we have. We're not overstaffed. The deal we made with the county, without that deal this year, would have been another $100,000 we would have been looking for. And that might have put us to that deficit mode because we were running tight. We would have been at $280,000 to $300,000 for the seal this year. That's how you balance it, John.
But at the end of the year, Ron, the way you explained it to me was they were $600,000 more than anticipated. So how can that be a deficit when there's more money coming in than was needed for last year's budget, which is why it found its way into the surplus and why it can be used this year for the budget. So it's just money. It's
You're right. If we dropped
just a
the
calculation.
surplus, like I said, went below where it was at the end of last year, you could say we're in a deficit position, but it didn't. It's right where it was.
We're going to have to think about all those things.
Any questions?
We've had time to sleep on it.
Yes, right.
You know.
I just have a couple, yes I do, because just my laundry list from the last several years was the ambulance service, so it needs to be brought down to a better number. Noise licenses fees, have they gone up at all for our wonderful $1 million clubs?
We're getting from Peter Savage a listing. We're raising fees across the board on a whole number of ones. We've gone to the town and the other municipalities. I'll find out from Peter before the next meeting.
Okay, right. And, you know, I just want to say this, that the village, the people of the village need to be further involved. And I think that I asked for this meeting to be held at a later time. It wasn't, but it's held a little bit later than it was before, so that was a concession. But I think it should still be later. Still, I think the treasurer should meet with people in public hearing, give an opportunity for people to talk to him about the budget process. This whole discussion is very fascinating. It needs to be discussed with more people than just the people in this audience. You know, and also have some philosophical discussion too, because well, Monti had, you know, maybe we should sell the theater, maybe we should privatize the recreation center, you know. I mean, people have different theories about what should be done, you know. And it needs to be an engagement about what that truly means. I don't think that happens enough. As I'm sitting here today, I'm getting a different perception of things. I think that process would be helpful for other people too.
You know, John, when I came here tonight, I really wanted this room to be packed.
Yeah, me too.
I wanted it to be packed. To look out, God bless you guys, you know, same three faces, everybody, you know. Where's everybody? I would like to blow our horn. This is damn proud of you. I am.
If this was a meeting about feral cats, this place would be full.
That was the most popular.
And it wouldn't matter that it was at 6 o'clock.
I say it every year.
You know, you go to some of the other villages all around and they're tanking. And I would love for this room to be filled. I'd love for it to be filled every meeting we have. I don't know why not.
Nor do I. You know, prior to this meeting, the Citizens Campaign has run videos, we've written articles, maybe some of it erroneous, we'll see. You know, we've done everything within our power to encourage people to show up, and they haven't come.
Maybe people are happy.
We had a good turnout
It's
last
a possibility too.
We had there was a garbage meeting, but there were half a dozen
Now that
people
the
last night.
snow is melted, there's a lot of...
John, last night was probably the biggest attendance that we
Yes,
had.
that's true.
That's just how I thought that they're going to be voting on Johnson.
The plastic bags.
Plastic bags.
No, there was only one person here to testify about the plastic bags. Everybody else was here about garbage, just about.
I don't have a particular answer. I just think we just got to continue encouraging people, and I think they will engage. That's
I really
You
hope.
know, John, and I don't say this frivolously. I've sat on a board, year 22. I've never been, we've never had a budget meeting that's ever had more than, we've had it
We've had
6
it
o'clock,
here.
7:30, 8 o'clock.
I remember a couple of
Mid-afternoon.
going here.
Really?
Yeah, it just,
Yeah, no matter what time.
No,
what
this is
time
a
of night.
success then.
Yeah.
Yes.
No matter what time of night.
23 years of it.
Dennis doesn't count. He's here anyway.
Well, I don't know. I think we just keep trying this one.
And I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying, I wish I could think back and
Yeah. I know that's
but there's always been a John Bogack in here.
Oh,
Always.
I'm surprised Mr. Kemp's not here tonight.
That's it.
I do
You know,
remember
John,
0 cable.
during the last election cycle, 3 years ago, we had debate, the issue about the theater going private. I mean, there was lots of talk about that. And so some of the issues, they're just not current right now. And we can talk about that issue.
But I thank you for
Yes, thank you very much.
getting it out as much as you can.
as much as I've been able to do, along with Joe Miller and some other people as well. Thank you.
Joe, you used up your time.
You know, I may not know about accounting, but I know about people. That's my line. Okay. Why people, Trustee Hilton, you said in other villages they're packed, and we've heard that in Mastic Beach they're packed. Now maybe it's because it's a new village, I don't know. You say maybe people are happy. It is a mistake to assume that we know why people don't show up. They're happy, they're unhappy, they fear this, they fear that. We don't know. And since they're showing up in other villages, I think it would be well, or do well for this village to make some effort and to try to find out why people don't show up. Now, before we said this is a blue collar area, and that may be part of it, and I'm not putting anybody down, but that may be part of it. But I don't think we should jump to any conclusions about why people aren't showing up. They're not showing up, and that's too bad, and we should.
But like I said to you, and I don't say it frivolously, is that 22 years, and they've never, I've said 22 budgets.
They show up in other villages.
But I'm just saying, the culture, I don't know, I can't give you an answer on that one.
And that's my point. We don't know, and we shouldn't jump to
And Justin, I wasn't joking about the feral cats. It always gets to me that, you have a meeting where you say we're going to do something about feral cats or whatever, and you get a packed house.
We're here for hours.
But the budget, which really affects everybody in the village, we get 3 people. I mean, and John, you've been posting on your Facebook page regularly, because I look at it. And I actually assumed when I was going to walk into this building that we were going to have a packed house tonight. In fact, 2 people who were sitting here were just sitting here because they had nothing else to do, and then they left. Marion and a friend there. So, we agree with you. I mean, we would like people to be more engaged in the process. But, short of dragging them out of their houses.
Then maybe, well, no, I don't think dragging people
It's in the advance, the Newsday covered it, the advance covered it.
But maybe there needs to be some thought or some discussion and maybe some effort in figuring out how you can get more people engaged. I'm not blaming, believe me, I'm not blaming the board. John and I puzzle about the same thing. I'm just saying we should not jump to any conclusions about why people don't show
Well,
up.
I mean, the conclusion that I said maybe people are happy. Why people who come to these meetings would be unhappy, correct? I mean,
It's about the simplistic way to look at it.
it's a very simplistic way to look at it, but we can assume what we want to assume, and I'm serious.
Be my guest.
But maybe people feel that the village is progressing, right? That progress that has gone on under Mayor Pontieri has done a good thing. People look at the village and it's improved, and the roads are being paved and the village looks good, and people
Except
are
that
doing
people
well.
didn't come 22 years ago, when the village wasn't looking so good.
Well, 2 years ago, it was looking like it.
So on what basis are you saying it's because we're making progress?
But I'm saying that maybe that's the reason, and we can all assume what the reason is. Maybe people have other things to do, but John's, your citizens, whatever the name of it is, has been encouraging people. And how many friends are on that page, John?
700.
700 people on that page you've been encouraging for the last few weeks to come to this meeting. I think that's a pretty good effort, and our friend Richard comes.
Well, maybe we shouldn't do
This was a feral cat meeting.
4 years late.
Yeah, you're 4 years late.
I certainly pull a bait and switch.
Jack was like, come to the feral cat meeting. Here I am.
Mr. Evans, how are you?
How are you guys?
Hi,
You're
Richard.
well.
Great, Patty. How are you?
Great, good to see you as always.
Good. I understand about the surplus thing because the bond rating is very important. I think garbage, ambulance price, something everyone would be in agreement to go after. I think something that is important though, if you'll humor me. I remember when I was younger, my mom had a picture of JFK on a boat, you know, when we were little. One of the reasons I got, like politics, you know, I was a little kid looking at JFK on this boat in our house. And it was back then they actually had a presidential yacht, like, you know, Air Force One and all. JFK sold the yacht because at that time they were raising taxes. And he didn't want to tell the American people, listen, we all have to tighten our belts while I'm on the yacht. So I think it's important that being public servants, in one degree, to raise taxes, which, if necessary or not necessary, we're telling the people that to raise taxes, and in the other hand, to give ourselves raises could be seen, maybe me being cynical, but that's something that's being paid out over a period of time. Would you all wholeheartedly about to say you all deserve a raise? For it?
For real.
Okay.
Or we
Mr.
wouldn't
Ferb,
vote on it.
do you deserve a raise?
Yes.
Okay.
I could tell you the calculations.
I imagine there's tons of calculations, and there also used to be calculations about telling you Camel cigarettes were better for you than Pall Mall. But I think something we have to remember, you guys are public servants, so when you do, it's a percentage. It's not just a number. And the number to some people is a larger number than others, because some people might have to eat at McDonald's. So I think something we need to grasp is by telling our people, listen, you guys have to tighten your belts, and it could be $1, it could be $100. It's just a principle of being public servants and then giving yourself a large percentage raise, because in the private sector, I imagine that percentage, not many people are getting those raises, except maybe if you're in a hedge fund or, you know, something along those lines. It's just, we want to see that you're public servants and who are you serving. But just, if you all are in agreement that you deserve those raises, then
One of the mistakes might have been waiting 9 years instead of doing something a little bit.
possibly, yeah, no, well,
You
that's
put
why
off
we're
and
here.
put off for the same reason as you just say, and after a while you say, you know, you're putting in 60 hours a week, 30 hours a week, you know, so you say, well.
But a lot of this,
Take away
some
from you.
people could argue that you guys shouldn't get paid.
Yeah.
In all fairness, because some people would say you know, people are retired and maybe they want to give to their community, they want to be a public servant. There's places where trustees don't get paid, or they maybe take a salary in lieu of health care. You know, that's just something. I'm not saying yes or no.
I
I'm
know
just
what you're
asking.
saying, Rich. You put a tremendous amount of hours. And honestly, this is a job. It is truly, truly a job. It is work. The amount of hours I put in, the amount of hours these trustees put in is incredible compared to where it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I give up consulting jobs and assistant principal high schools. They pay me $800, $900 a day to do this. It's just what I do. I love what I do. But the amount of work, the amount of hours is just beginning to drag.
Oh, I imagine, but I imagine also you guys don't do what you do for money. You'd be doing something else. You're all bright people. You'd be doing something else.
Almost to a point, but it was at that point that says, okay, the value. And you hate to put value on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying yes or no. I was just asking. I think everyone should be asking. And I imagine you guys all asked yourselves that before. It's just a percentage can create people to be cynical, of course, you know, and it's something that should, because it's going to also, we have to look into pensions and payouts, because maybe from 15 years from now, someone's going to be sitting in a different treasurer that's going to be saying, well, we're not at this bond rating because we have to chase down a larger number to ride out the black. So it's something that I think everyone should take wholeheartedly. But thank you, guys.
I'd like to just make
Sure.
a comment based on what Trustee Keyes said. If we were making $12,000, if 9 years ago we had just simply took a 3% increase, we would now be making more than what we're proposing. We would be making $15,714.28. So, you know, we waited 9 years. We waited 9 years, but I think we have expenses we incur in doing this job. We have things that we need to attend. We have retirements some of us need to save for. Some of us were doing other things on the outside. And I think that most village residents would be reasonable to say that $15,000 for people who put in a minimum of 20 hours a week is reasonable.
Okay, and it's not the price or the number
I know
itself,
what you're saying.
but also the ambulance is a problem. How many people do you think that ride those ambulances
Well,
don't have
we're
health
working
insurance?
on that with the village attorney, so that's already...
But I'm saying, how many people you think that ride those ambulances don't have health insurance? They don't get a package like you do. So that's part of your
I don't
salary.
get my health insurance from the village.
Well, maybe not for you, but for anything. That's something else that we have to, say if you didn't run again and someone took your seat, they would have that option. That's part of your pay. That's a pay package. So that's something we have to take into consideration too. So it's not just that, you know, so, and the percentage. If you were in the public sector, you wouldn't get that kind of percentage. And you do have the option for healthcare. If you choose not to because of your personal situation, that's not for you.
Many of us do not.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you. Any other comment? Motion to accept? Motion to accept is presented.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you.